Make sure that as you extend overhead, you're pressing your lower back into the ground and you're keeping your legs lifted. You want tension to be in the band even as you reach overhead. Hey guys, it's Corey from Redefining Strength, and today I want to share with you 5 of my favorite resistance band core moves. These are great moves to work your entire core, everything down your front side, your back side, and even your side sides. The resistance band is a great way to add resistance to these movements and applies resistance in a different way than, say, dumbbells. Resistance bands apply more tension over the course of a movement and usually apply the most resistance where the muscle is strongest. They're a great way to progress movements without simply adding heavier loads, because by using different tools, we can progress movements and really challenge our body in new ways. So if you're looking for a killer core workout, try these 5 resistance band core moves. Core move number 1 is the band hip rotation. This is a great move to strengthen your glutes and work your abs in a stabilizing fashion. Our glutes should power our rotational movements, especially when we pivot our back foot. When you pivot your back foot, you're putting your hip, knee, and ankle into triple extension. You're extending all 3 joints. But often when you see people pivot, even when they're doing a punch, they're not using their glute to power that rotation. They're simply going up on the ball of their foot. This exercise is a great way to break down this movement and make sure that you're actually using your glute to power that rotation, because you're taking the pivot out of it. You want to make sure your toe is slightly angled out so you're not putting your knee in a weird position as you actually use your glute to rotate from the hip. You want to make sure that you're not twisting through your spine to twist, but actually rotating through that hip using that glute to power the movement. Because we're taking out that triple extension of that back leg, you're not going to simply go up on the ball of your foot and just move your foot. You're actually going to have to use that glute to twist. Make sure you're bracing your abs to protect your lower back. It's really tempting to try and create a bigger movement and a bigger rotation by simply twisting through your lower back. Beginners might keep their elbows bent so it's less strain on your core to stabilize your spine. By extending your arms out, you'll make this a more challenging movement for not only your abs and obliques, but also your glutes. To make this move more challenging, so you're not just isolating that hip rotation, you can add in almost a conventional deadlift position, sitting your butt back as you have slight knee flexion to load those glutes. Just make sure all of the rotation is coming from that back glute. This will help you learn how to properly pivot and drive that triple extension of the back leg using your glutes. Core move number 2 is the anti-rotational dead bug. The dead bug is a great core move to really build a solid foundation and learn how to brace your abs correctly to stabilize and protect your spine. By adding in the stability press, you're going to make it a great anti-rotational move to work not only your abs and obliques, but also your hips and your quads. Be conscious of engaging your upper back to support your shoulders as you press the band up from your chest. You want to make sure you're engaging your abs to press your lower back into the ground before you bicycle your legs slowly in and out. If you can't maintain that posterior pelvic tilt and you feel your lower back engaging, you might need to do a bent knee variation over the straight leg kickouts. Make sure that as you extend the leg out close to the ground, you're also engaging that glute to support everything. If you can't kick out close to the ground without your lower back engaging, kick your legs up higher or go to that bent knee variation. You need to make sure you're really bracing your abs to protect your lower back. Make sure there's enough tension in the resistance band that you're really having to work to prevent rotation. Your arms should want to drift back towards the anchor point, but you're fighting against that rotation, engaging those obliques and abs. Anti-rotational core work is so key and often overlooked in our routines in favor of more rotational exercises. If we want to prevent unnecessary flexion or extension or even rotation of our spine during daily movements or activities, we need to make sure to work on that anti-rotational core strength so we know how to brace and protect our spine. Make sure that as you do this move, you're not rushing the movement, but really focus on what you feel working and engaging your upper back to even pack your shoulders. You don't want to shrug as you do this movement. Beginners might even bend their elbows to help support their shoulders and even take a little bit of the strain off the anti-rotational movement. Core move number 3 is the Band Seesaw. This is a great full posterior chain movement. So if you want to work your entire backside from your shoulders to your knees, this is a must-do move. I also like this exercise as supplemental work to deadlifting because it works that posterior chain and helps you learn how to engage your lats and abs to really brace as you hip hinge. This move will work your glutes, hamstrings, abs, lats, and even your posterior delt and upper back. Especially if you've struggled with your lower back engaging during overhead pressing, this is a great move to include to really train you on how to engage your lats and your butt to protect your lower back as you press overhead. To do this movement, make sure you're really hip hinging and sitting that butt back as you pull the band back between your legs. You want to think about pushing your butt back to a wall behind you. You'll keep your knees soft as you hinge. You don't want to squat, but there can be a little knee flexion depending on your mobility. Then as you stand up, you'll pull the band back and overhead. As you reach overhead, really squeeze your butt and brace your abs to protect your lower back. Think about engaging your upper back and your posterior delts to the back of your shoulder as you reach the band up overhead. It can be really challenging to arch your lower back to try and pull back further or even push your head forward as you reach overhead, but you want to make sure you're maintaining that nice, tall posture. Don't try and reach back further if it means that you're going to hyperextend something and feel your neck or lower back. Because this is a difficult move that requires you to hip hinge properly and have proper shoulder mobility to reach overhead, you might want to start with a pull through if you struggle with that hip hinge movement. The band pull through is a great way to train that hip hinge movement pattern because the band is actually anchored behind you, which reminds you to sit back. When you do the band seesaw, make sure to engage your lats to pull the band back between your legs as you hip hinge over. This is a great way to really train that lat engagement for when you deadlift or do another hip hinge movement. Move slowly and make sure there's tension on the band throughout the entire movement. Core move number 4 is the side plank row. Anytime you can add in a little upper back work or posterior chain work during your core movement, it's an added bonus. This is a great move to work your back, obliques, glute medius, abs, even your glute max because you're driving your hip into extension as you hold that side plank. It's a great anti-rotational core move that also works your upper back. I love this move because you can't bounce as you row, and it really forces you to engage your upper back and focus on the scapular retraction as you pull the band towards your chest. You really want to think about keeping your chest open and driving your elbow back, but powering that pull with your back. Because you're holding the side plank and you're trying to fight rotation, it's a great anti-rotational core move that also forces you to really isolate that upper back because you can't bounce to row the weight up like you can when you're doing, say, a bent over row. This is a great unilateral move to correct any imbalances because each side is going to work independently. When you do the row, make sure that you're actually initiating the pull with your back. You want to feel your shoulder blade move towards your spine. Make sure that you don't drop your bottom hip as you hold the side plank. You want to be conscious even of your foot positioning. Make sure to flex your feet to create tension all the way up your lower leg and protect your knee. You want to feel your glute medius or your side butt working to keep your hip up as you engage your oblique and even pack your shoulder. Make sure to engage your upper back to support your shoulder. You don't want your elbow drifting out beyond your shoulder towards your head. If you feel that the move is too much on your lower back and you can't engage your glutes to drive your hips into extension, you can go down to a knee. You can also perform the exercise off an incline. You can also slightly modify the movement by simply unstacking your feet. By unstacking your feet, you add a little bit extra stability to the movement. Make sure that as you hold that side plank, you're really engaging your glutes to drive your hips into extension and keeping that bottom hip lifted as you row. Core move number 5 is the pullover crunch. This is a great core move with an added upper body bonus. The pullover works not only your chest, lats, and triceps, but also your serratus anterior, and because you're doing the crunch movement, you're going to work your abs as well. If you often struggle with maintaining that posterior pelvic tilt during core work, or you can't yet do hanging abs, this is a great exercise to include in your routine. Make sure that as you extend overhead, you're pressing your lower back into the ground and you're keeping your legs lifted. You want tension to be in the band even as you reach overhead. As you crunch up, really focusing on lifting your shoulder blades, you're going to bring your arms up overhead and then down outside your hips. Feel your triceps, lats, and chest working to pull that band over as you tuck your knees in. Make sure to really press your lower back into the ground. If you find that your lower back is engaging during this movement, you might do a bent knee tuck instead, or even a single leg lift instead of tucking both knees in. Make sure to really lift your shoulder blades up so that you're not just crunching and lifting your neck. You don't want to strain your neck during the movement. As you extend your arms back overhead and your legs back out, engage your glutes and press your lower back into the ground. Even focusing on that exhale as you crunch up and pull the band over can really help you brace those abs. Using these 5 core moves, you can work everything down your front side and your back side to work your core entirely with both anti-rotational and rotational movements. Check the video description for a great workout to do using these 5 moves and have some fun. If you like the video, make sure to like it, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe. We're posting new videos each week.